Hey everybody, this is Julian Baudouin and I'm here with Taniza Islam. We're here representing the South Dakota Dream Coalition tonight, and thank you for coming back to watch another episode of News for You. Tonight we have a few updates that we want to provide to you, but first I'll give it to Taniza just to give us an update on what the South Dakota Dream Coalition actually is and what we do.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. Also, sorry for the late start. We're just getting used to how to stream live on all the platforms, so thanks for joining us today. So I just wanted to give a quick overview of who we are. The South Dakota Dream Coalition came together during COVID. It's 10 immigrant-led nonprofit organizations and immigrant-facing organizations, like Caminando Juntos, for example. So we got together during COVID to make sure that we were coordinating information, accurate information, getting out to our communities. And if you remember the Emergency Relief Fund for immigrants, where we were giving cash assistance to immigrant-led households, South Dakota Voices for Peace did the fundraising for that, and the Dream Coalition helped to take in applications and administer that. Another thing we did was KPASA really took the lead in this one, is we did a car parade around Smithfield showing our support for the meat processing plant workers. And actually that was part of the reason the Smithfield did close down for 14 days. And it was the only meat processing plant we know of in our region that closed down to make sure they were cleaning up like they were supposed to. And really probably the biggest thing you might remember is that South Dakota Voices for Peace, we partnered with Urban Indian Health, and we had a public free vaccination clinic during COVID in the Empire Mall parking lot. So we've been doing this work for a long time. We are trusted leaders in our community. We have immigration attorneys, a part of the coalition. We are really committed to assuring that the information that we are providing to community is accurate. And so it might take a little time once we see a rumor, for example, or something take off on Facebook or Instagram. It might take us a little time to react, because what we're actually doing behind the scenes is figuring out what exactly is going on.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and it's a good segue into the first topic of discussion today. Is we want to make sure we're factual in all of the items that we're presenting. But one of the big questions surrounding the community right now is about a post that was circulating on social media around students being asked for birth certificates at Washington High School. What information can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there were a couple posts that were going around, a lot of communication between different South Dakota Dream Coalition members and Hispanic community members specifically. We were told by the school district that they will be sending a statement out to all school district families, hopefully in the next couple hours. I do have that email in front of me. Basically what it says is something we probably have already seen, which has been translated on KPASA's Facebook page, is that asking for birth certificates is a normal part of the school enrollment process. And the state of South Dakota is now auditing all student files to make sure that birth certificates are in them. The birth certificate country of origin doesn't matter. It can be US, it can be Guatemala, it can be India. But the reason that they do this is to assure that there are the correct parents that are coming to pick up kids, or if there's custody issues or protection orders. This is the explanation they've given us. It's not because of immigration status. The appearance of what happened, though, is very troubling, and I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions. Though I appreciate having a statement, I think we need some more answers around student safety in our school if law enforcement or ICE specifically shows up.
Yeah, so one thing that the Dream Coalition really does pride itself on as well is the relationships that we've been able to build with other leaders outside of the coalition. And so one of those relationships, of course, is with the school district. And so we plan to hopefully meet with someone, a representative from the school district soon, and so we can get more of your questions answered at that point. So
if you do have questions, please send that to KPASA. They're kind of taking in all the questions and making sure that we present those questions from the community when we do meet with school district employees.
Okay, so perfect. All right, let's switch gears just a little bit. I want to switch over to some updates about ICE activity. Is there anything that we should be knowing about recent activity in the community with ICE?
Yeah, so just a quick recap. We heard from Chief Toom that the Sioux Falls Police Department is currently not assisting ICE in immigration law enforcement. And we also heard from Sheriff Milstead that they too are not. However, the Minnehaha County Jail is where ICE, if they arrest someone, puts them in and detains them. So all of this is public information. If you look at the Minnehaha County Jail website, it will tell you who's been booked, what they've been booked for, and if they have an ICE detainer, which means they're just waiting for ICE to come and pick them up and take them to probably Minnesota, because that's where immigration court is for us. So that's what that means. So I did do a community presentation over the weekend. And after the presentation, a member of the community who is Arab, so he speaks Arabic, he's from an Arab country, shared with me that he was stopped by ICE on the street. And like a traffic stop, essentially. Right. And the ICE agent came up to him speaking in Spanish. And so this is concerning for me because it seems like a lot of room for racial profiling. So, Julian, I know you're a law enforcement officer. Can you share a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, so there really is a thin line between what is profiling and what is reasonably suspicious to a law enforcement officer. And in this case, I think there's, again, a lot of questions that need to be answered. What was the suspicion, number one? What is suspicious to ICE agents? Because ICE agents are federal law enforcement officers, and so their suspicion could be a little bit different than maybe a county officer or a local PD officer, or even a state highway patrol officer. So we as a coalition have questions about what constitutes as being suspicious. Again, we'll work to make sure we have all of those answers for you. But one thing that I can tell you is that which is really the purpose of these episodes for News for You, is that we aim to make sure you know all of your rights, so that you have the tools at your fingertips to be able to use if and when approached by either ICE or any other law enforcement officer for that matter. So we just want to make sure you're comfortable, of course, traveling across this community, and also you work here, you go to school here, you go to church here, you shop here. You're just as much a part of this community as anyone else, and we want to make sure you're comfortable with that. So
yeah, and sometimes I feel like telling people you really need to know your rights and assert your rights doesn't feel like enough with all of the fear that's in our community. But what we're starting to see in other states where people really are asserting their rights, that they're able to force ICE to follow the rules too. Right? To go and get the warrant if they're trying to arrest someone. So we're not doing anything unlawful or illegal by asserting our rights. We're basically saying, well, now you need to do your part legally too. Right.
And this stuff can be really, really scary for anybody, but particularly in the situation that we're in right now surrounding immigration statuses, it is really, really scary. And so we're not asking you to be calm in these moments. We're just asking you to resort back to the information that we're giving you so that you have the best tools and you're well equipped to handle the situations.
Yeah, so back to that issue with the Arab community member in Sioux Falls, I think the most concerning thing for me specifically was that the ICE agent asked what the person's immigration status is, which they are allowed to do legally. And instead of remaining silent, which at that point the community member could have said, he said, I am a U.S. citizen. ICE agent asked for proof, which again gets into this gray area of whether ICE can actually ask that and what it's based on. But the community member presented his U.S. passport card to the ICE agent and everything was fine. So there is, I mean, even though knowing our rights is critical right now, there is kind of a disconnect between knowing our rights, feeling comfortable asserting our rights, and then also how safe we're feeling in the situation.
Yeah.
So like Julian said, we're giving you the information and we want you to make informed decisions based on that information. And if you're not feeling comfortable for whatever reason to assert your right at the moment, just know that maybe something you say could be used against you.
Absolutely.
Or maybe you're going to be let go because you answered the question that the officer is asking.
Yeah. So maybe just to follow up on that, and we've touched on this in previous episodes, but I think it's really important to touch on it again. What constitutes as an arrest warrant by ICE?
Yeah, so an arrest warrant has to be issued by the court, so a federal court or a state court. It has to have a judge's signature. It has to specifically name who is going to be arrested, where this person is located, and usually it'll have an expiration date of when the warrant has to be served. So if it's past that date, it's considered invalid. If it doesn't have a judge's signature, it's invalid. We have pictures of valid search warrants, arrest warrants, and invalid ones, because ICE can present you with a paper asserting that it is a valid search warrant, but then it becomes our right to look at it and say, hey, it's not signed by a judge, so I know this is not a valid warrant. I'm not letting you in. I'm not letting you arrest me, etc. So that's a valid warrant.
Mm-hmm.
I think just really quickly to go over some of our rights. If an ICE agent asks us what your immigration status is, and you say U.S. citizen, right? And then they ask you for documentation. A lot of the questions that I've been getting is, should U.S. citizens be carrying their passport around or a copy of their page? And there's no yes or no answer to this question.
Right.
Legally, it's not a legal requirement for U.S. citizens to carry their passport or a passport card. However, this comes back to what will make you feel safe. If you're feeling more safe to have a copy of that first page in your glove compartment or on your phone, but if you do have it on your phone, make sure you're not handing the phone over to the agent, because now they have access to many more things.
Right.
You can just kind of flash it in the window, for example. But a really important thing to know is if you're not a U.S. citizen and don't have proof of that, do not present any false documents. Nothing false, nothing untrue. Don't say anything untrue or false to the agent. And we are recommending, and national organizations are recommending, not to provide any foreign documentation. So no passport card from Mexico or a passport from India, for example, because that could be used against you.
So then a follow-up question that I would have, and we didn't necessarily talk about this, but I think it might be important. Do any of those documents that are presented by federal law enforcement officers, such as ICE, does any of that need to be translated into a different language for understanding?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a right to ask for an interpreter, right? And what ICE will do with that request, we're not sure. But our position right now is assert the right, because if the right is violated, now you can say you asserted it. And this brings me to another point that we'll go into a little bit more in the next episode, but you do have a right to record any interaction with law enforcement. Okay, don't make it like obtrusive, like in the officer's face, but you can just set it on your dashboard or wherever you are and record. And if they say, hey, what are you doing? You can just say, I know I have the right to record this interaction. If you're a passenger in the car, you can record the interaction. Again, don't get involved in the situation. The reason why we're emphasizing this today is because of this borderline racial profiling incident that we know happened in Sioux Falls 100%. And so it's going to be important for all of us to understand that we do have a right to record and keep that as evidence. And if you feel as though your constitutional rights have been violated, please contact us at South Dakota Voices for Peace, which has 3 immigration attorneys on staff.
Yeah. So I think we covered everything here in our notes. Was there anything else maybe you think we needed to talk about tonight?
Yeah, one more thing. If you watched the interview with Sheriff Milstead, I did ask him what the booking process is for if sheriff is bringing someone they've arrested based on a state crime versus if ICE agent brings someone to the Minnehaha County Jail because of an ICE detainer. And Sheriff Milstead confirmed today that the process is the same. It doesn't matter if ICE or the sheriff is bringing them in, but they will have access to a phone and a PIN number. And sometimes the person has a hard time remembering phone numbers. So another thing we're encouraging people to do right now is to memorize one important phone number. I mean, back in the day, we knew everyone's phone numbers.
Right.
But now I don't even know my son's. I don't even know my son's phone number.
Yeah.
So it's really important to memorize some important phone numbers. So when you are given that opportunity, if you're detained, that you have someone you can call right away.
Yeah. So thank you for that really good information, and thank you all for watching another episode of News for You. Please go and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at News for You, South Dakota Dream Coalition, the Hub South Dakota, and also South Dakota Voices for Peace. There are some links on there to keep these types of programs going. We do require, or we really rely on your donations, your sponsorship, and your support. And so there are some links on there, ways for you to donate and chip in to this great cause. So again, thank you for watching us tonight, and y'all be safe out there.
Yeah, thanks, and share this episode.